Welcome back to Ready Player None, the only podcast that sells its hosts bathwater. Wade, having just won the copper key in an arcade game against a skeleton, is stood in the middle of a tomb and is approached by a mystery female avatar. "Who the hell are you?" the silhouette demanded. The voice sounded like it belonged to a young woman, one who was itching for a fight. But Wade recognizes the avatar in question, as it's the only other significant female character that's not his auntie that's been mentioned. It's Artemis, that Gunter blogger. She's dressed in sci-fi armor, she's got Ray-Bans, fingerless gloves. Overall, she seemed to be going for a sort of mid-80s post-apocalyptic cyberpunk girl next door look. And it was working for me in a big way. In a word, hot. I didn't ask. She walks up to Wade, sizing him up, but doesn't seem to draw a weapon. Wade's initially too starstruck to speak, but by conjuring up the idea of the obese, hairy-knuckled guy named Chuck, he manages to hide his erection for long enough to have a conversation with her. He introduces himself under the name of Sean Connery's character from Highlander, is that? And when she throws a Highlander quote back at him, he realizes that yes, this is Artemis. "So, spill it. How did you do?" "Do at what?" "Jousting against the Sararak," she said, as if it were obvious. Wade realizes that he hasn't been the only one to decipher the limerick, and that Artemis has also figured out the location of the Tomb of Horrors. But if Artemis is still here, that means she hasn't managed to beat the Lich in an arcade game. I got most of the way through that sentence before realizing the absurdity of my life. Threatened by being quizzed by a girl, Wade weighs up his options. He could either try and run past her and out into Ludus, which is a no PvP zone, or he could try and fight her off, even though she looks 5 times tougher than he does. So instead he just lies and tells her that joust isn't really his game. Discussing the PvP combat rule, he finds out from Artemis that he's the only other player she's ever found down here. But to test out if they can in fact fight against each other, she takes a big spinning swing at him with her elvish blade. But she's stopped by the fact that player versus player combat not permitted here. Narrator Wade barges in here to say that the keys are non-transferable, and he wouldn't learn that until later. If you're killed while holding a key, it disappears forever. Artemis proves herself both cooler and smarter than Wade, airing her suspicions that such a low-level Wimperzoid couldn't possibly have defeated the Lich in combat and that he must be hiding something. Why not just whip out the copper key and show it to her? I'm sure there's plenty of things you want to whip out and show to her. Wade makes for the exit, but she wants him to stick around because at midnight the tomb will reset and she'll be able to take down the Lich and get the key herself. But when he insists on leaving, she apologises for calling him a low-level Wimperzoid. Now that she's got someone to talk to about her discovery, she rambles that she worked out the tomb's location 3 weeks ago. Her grades have been dropping because she's been practicing joust in her free time, and she's really happy that she's got someone to finally talk to about this because she clearly couldn't do it publicly without risking somebody else discovering the tomb. She cut herself off again. "Man, I'm such a motormouth, a jabberjaw, a flibbity-gibbet." She mimed zipping her lips, locking them, and tossing away the imaginary key. Without thinking, I mimed grabbing the key out of the air and unlocking her lips. This made her laugh, an honest, genuine laugh that involved a fair amount of snorting, which made me laugh too. I don't have the patience for this. Listener, I just side-eyed the microphone. Her geeky demeanour and hyperkinetic speech pattern reminded me of Jordan, my favourite character in Real Genius. Okay, research time. Real Genius. 1985. Ernest Cline. Birth date. 1972. 13 years. Jordan, played by Michelle Mayrink, born 1962, age 23. Ernest Cline is really out here writing a romance between his self-insert and his crush from when he hit puberty. I really do have no patience for straight people. I felt a sudden urge to kiss her. Simulation or not, I didn't care. I was working up the courage to ask for a contact card when she stuck out her hand. Wade is a creepy stalker who wants to kiss some... Editor Gherkin here. There's a little bit of audio file missing at this point. Some of it was more of my amazing song about Wade being a creepy stalker and his attitude towards somebody who he's just met but he's followed online for quite some time, as well as the subsequent part where they finally introduce themselves to each other by name. Wade's impressed that Artemis knows the name Parzival to be one of the Knights of the Round Table who found the Holy Grail. We now return you to the surviving audio, which Wade almost always has to explain to people, and Wade in turn knows that she's named for the Greek goddess of the hunt. These names are very on the nose, aren't they? And both of them have had to take alternate spellings of their name, owing to them already being taken. You mentioned that once on your blog, 2 years ago. I almost cited the date of the actual blog entry before I realised it would make me sound like even more of a cyberstalking super creep. You are. You might fool the other characters. Alright, this is actually kinda cute. Artemis hands Wade her contact card. You could design your card to look like just about anything. Artemis had coded hers to look like a vintage Kenner Star Wars action figure still in the blister pack. The figure was a crude plastic rendering of her avatar, with the same face, hair, and outfit. Tiny versions of her guns and sword were included. Yeah, I like that. I'm an action figure guy. And in recent years there's been a lot of comic variant covers on a similar theme. Wade's contact card looks like the Atari 2600 cartridge for Adventure, which I'm not as wowed over. Though I should note, yes, I did play an Atari when I was young. It's not a nostalgia thing. This is awesome, she said, looking it over. What a wicked design. Thanks, I said, blushing under my visor. I wanted to propose marriage, because the girl at the video game store was nice to me. Wade snaps back to reality and tries to make his exit. Artemis is disappointed that her kindred spirit is leaving, but at least they can still be friends even if they are competitors. Just as Wade is regretting lying to her, she gets some kind of alert in a private browser window. The name Parzival is up in lights on Halliday's scoreboard, and every single news article reads something like, "Mysterious avatar Parzival makes history. Parzival finds copper key." And Artemis gets so mad at him, bashing his avatar around, completely non-harmlessly, of course. "You beat him on your first try?" she shouted. I nodded. He won the first game, but I won the last two. Just barely, though. "Shit!" she screamed, clenching her fists. 6 eyes in the middle of that. 6 asterisks. She's incredibly frustrated, though largely at herself, for spending 5 weeks of her time, rather than 3, practicing joust. Wade keeps interjecting with snarky commentary. That can't be pleasant. And for a minute I feel like she might just walk out of his life and never speak to him again, and she'd be much better off. But what she does instead is cast a barrier spell on the exit and traps him in to interrogate him. My guess is that when Anorak gave you the copper key, he also gave you some sort of clue about the location of the first gate, right? That's where you're headed next, isn't it? So Wade is trapped in the room for 15 minutes until the barrier dissipates, and then his exit on the way out is going to be slowed down by all the traps and monsters that'll respawn. And during this time, Artemis is going to fight a Serarak again? Why? You're evil, you know that? I said. She grinned and shook her head. Chaotic neutral, sugar. Cringe. While both of them are forced to wait in the throne room, Artemis tells Wade that by tomorrow, Parzival is going to be a household name. But she asks, genuinely interested, what he'd do with the prize money if he did get all the way, and unimpressed by his answer of moving into a mansion. A little more probing causes Wade to impulsively blurt out what he'd always dreamed of doing if he'd won. "I'd have a nuclear-powered interstellar spacecraft constructed in Earth's orbit," I said. "I'd stock it with a lifetime supply of food and water, a self-sustaining biosphere, and a supercomputer loaded with every movie, book, song, video game, and piece of artwork that human civilization has ever created, along with a standalone copy of the Oasis. Then I'd invite a few of my closest friends to come aboard, along with a team of doctors and scientists, and we'd all get the hell out of Dodge, leave the solar system, and start looking for an extrasolar Earth-like planet." My immediate instinct was that this is an incredibly selfish way to write a protagonist, but it turns out Artemis agrees with me. "That's pretty ambitious," she said. "But you do realise that nearly half the people on this planet are starving, right?" I detected no malice in her voice. She sounded like she genuinely believed I might not be aware of this fact. Artemis's answer to the same question is going to be making sure that everybody on the planet has enough to eat. Once we tackle world hunger, then we can figure out how to fix the environment and solve the energy crisis. Wade responds with this sarcastic remark about genetically engineering Smurfs and unicorns into life. "You really think it's that simple?" I said. "That you can just write a check for $240 billion and fix all the world's problems?" "I don't know. Maybe not. But I'm going to give it a shot." So our competitive antagonist is the idealist, and the protagonist is the cynic. I'm finding myself agreeing with Artemis. Fix the world. Don't worry about your stupid, bizarre spaceship plan. Imagine being trodden on by life at every step, but not wanting to pay kindness forward. The server clock strikes midnight and the whole tomb resets as Serarak reappears on his throne. As Artemis approaches the Lich to play a stupid game of joust, Wade gives her the tip that he played on the cabinet from the left side. She takes his advice on board and decides to do the same, while Wade makes good his escape. Truly, he was the Ready Player One. And that is the end of Chapter 9. Wade is a creep. Wade is selfish. Wade is a tool. Wade is bad. Can we jump ship to Artemis's side of the adventure? Although maybe Ernest Cline doesn't have the range to write about what it's like to be a woman on the internet. I'm almost certain that was the introduction of our major romance, built upon a foundation of lies and cyber stalking. Can Cline turn it around? Nope. I bet he cannot. Right then, I've been Gherkin. You can find me on Twitter @TheLastGherkin, Tumblr TheLastGherkin, YouTube The Last Gherkin, where you can watch this as a video with subtitles, and thelastgherkin.podbean.com, where you can get an MP3 download probably. I haven't even uploaded any of these episodes to Podbean yet, and I'm recording the 10th episode before any of the episodes have actually gone live, so I'm actually 10 weeks behind what you're currently listening to. Till next time, when you need me, you'll only have to call my name. I'll always find you. Hold on. I just need to sit slightly differently.